some interesting scenarios. And Maria, both of those probably would have wound up on your desk. What would have happened?
They possibly could have. Interestingly, we had two scenarios that ended in different ways, and I think it's very important, and I agree so much with what you were saying prior to watching these segments. There's a multifaceted approach that we need to take to the issues that we're facing or we're discussing today. We need to have the issue of, good parenting, and parents who are advising their children about how to handle a situation like that. Let's face it, in the first scenario, we saw a young man who remained calm, who was responsive to what law enforcement was being said, and who was respectful. And he ended up, not being referred any further. Then we had the young lady who wasn't respectful, had a little bit of an attitude, who didn't in fact cooperate, and that is a case that would have ended up being referred to my office. Now, luckily, because of all the different things that we have in the county now and that we hope to continue to have and, expand upon, she probably would have been sent to a diversion program. So the Children's Services Council would have funded for her to be able to receive, some training to become competent and to make better decisions in such situations and avoid having a formal record. However, if that young lady did not avail herself of that opportunity, which unfortunately happens sometimes, children, even when faced with the consequence of having to go to court, as opposed to voluntarily going into a program where they're going to learn to make better choices, she might have rejected it. And then that might have ended up being a case that goes to court. And the unfortunate circumstance is that at that age, she's probably not thinking of what's going to happen when she goes off for a job, when she has that job application that she has to fill out. And a petty theft, which is considered a crime of dishonesty, is one of the things that employers are very concerned about, is it not?
Absolutely.
So, even though we might not think it's a big deal, in an employment scenario, that actually might be a bigger deal than some other things that we might consider to be a bit more serious. So I think we need to have this multifaceted approach where parents are from a young age not only engaging with their children, but teaching them how to make good choices, how to deal with situations where they're confronted with law enforcement. We need to have law enforcement that's better trained at understanding that kids sometimes are hypersensitive, that you might speak to a child who overreacts, and that we shouldn't jump to the conclusion that everything requires an arrest. And I think we are making great strides in that, although we do need to, continue improving. And good judgment, the use of good judgment. You said something prior, Cindy, about, how we shouldn't criminalize everything. And the scenario that you talked about with the balloon, the frozen balloon being a deadly weapon, good judgment needs to be used in circumstances like that. All circumstances that might fit the letter of the law shouldn't be. And then again, we need to recognize that sometimes they should be. I mean, sometimes there are people who hurt people, and those are serious circumstances, and those are things that I think as members of the community we should all be aware of.
Well, an intent behind the frozen water balloon. Like, was it an experiment? We have some stuff going on with that, in our state now.
Context.
Right. And were they really trying to hurt somebody?
Angelo said something very interesting too about, his, now that he has taken responsibility for his actions, not being able to be reincorporated into the community. And that's the last thing that I want to say about good judgment. Now, we need, as a community, as employers, to use good judgment there too. If you see that there's a young person who has had some trouble, but they've taken responsibility for their actions and moved on, I think it's also the responsibility of the business community to be accepting, to be, to incorporate, because we can do all the things that we're doing, and ultimately they're the ones who are going to doing the hiring. This young man now deserves a chance, and we can't legislate that, Cindy. We need to do that because it's the right thing, and I think we need to demand it. Maybe we need to be aware of what businesses aren't hiring young people like Angelo, who have basically paid their debt to society and are now in a position to move on, and maybe we need to start not giving our business to those places.
I'm sure Mason has something to say about that.
Well, before Mason starts, I would just like to say, as far as programs such as Workforce One and OIC, I feel like for youth, there should be more programs that target self-improvement. For example, Miss Marie's diversion program, I feel that at one point in time in my life, I was a part of that, but prior to that, I was gone off into a scared straight program. I don't agree with the methods. Everybody's different, of course, and it takes likings to things differently. And I just feel like the diversion program taught me more self-value and to build my own character. So I don't have to go through certain things. There's different ways of going through issues that I have. And once I learned that I'm able to choose, no matter where I'm from, what type of environment I'm from, or what type of way people look at me, I have to know who I am as a person. And scared straight programs more target a fear factor. And I know as adults people don't respond to fear, but kids as well. And then on top of that, kids aren't as developed as adults to where they can communicate as well. They feel that they're already frowned upon, so why should I communicate with someone who already labels me? There's programs that need to encourage youth. OIC, for example, both youth and adults, they encourage people to go out there and give 110% each day. Workforce One, they do the same, and they improve on imperfections as far as resumes, interview questions. Another thing that I learned from Workforce One is just a simple thank you letter upon an interview, or just thank you for your time of day can go a long way. And just like this young lady was saying, respect. It's a clear display of respect. So I feel like once that's presented to a child, they're more likely to practice that and apply it in their everyday activities, man. Respect goes a long way.
And we don't believe in the Scared Straight programs at CSC. We don't fund anything like that. But there are some our youth force and our 21st century programs that do try and get to some of those issues. And I think, building on Maria's point about young people maybe not accepting a diversion program, I think hearing from you, Angela, that it was really helpful may help them make that choice that maybe I will try the diversion program.
Yeah, it's all about choices in a person's life, and I feel that once I made a choice to seek help, because that's what we're here for. I'm here to help my youth. We're all here to help. So I feel like once the youth see that there is a hand out there that's saying, here, I'm here to help you, they'll be able to just go in and be more trustworthy and see us to be, hey, we're the helping hand, the community. We're here to better our communities, and I just feel that there's different ways that other organizations do it, but fear is not one of them. Fear is not one of them. Respect and trust, honesty.
One of the lessons in that vignette was to choose your friends wisely. That is, your friends can get you into more trouble than you can get in by yourself. In that particular vignette, the one girl was shoplifting, the other one saw it. But I have heard of situations where somebody shoplifted and the other friends didn't even know it. And when the person was arrested, they arrested all of the kids in a group. So, and took them away and so forth. And they weren't even aware that it happened, but because they were all together, they were arrested. Now, I don't know the outcome of those kinds of things, but it's still trouble. The parents are still called, and it's still a bad situation. So choose your friends wisely, and make sure that you're not hanging around people that get you in trouble. I also want to comment on the employer situation. I do think, as Maria said, employers need to look at the type of offense and how long ago it was, and so forth. And we do have many employers. I don't want to make it sound like employers won't hire you. They will, and many of them will take a look at the offense and how long ago it was and what you've done since then and what you've done to better yourself, and they will look at it. But there are some industries where they don't have any latitude. If it's in the hospital industry, if you're a manufacturer, especially in the Defense Department, if you're a child care worker, if you're a teacher,
police,
in a police department, fire department, there are many places like that where the employer really doesn't have a choice. And there isn't any reason why you need to hang that anchor around your neck.
That's why, so often we talk about consequences with young people, because there's a lot of us out here working towards changing the paradigm, changing policy and legislation, et cetera, to give young people more opportunities. But it really is, it starts with the young people and making sure that you're conscious about the decisions that you make. Because we can change some policies, some legislation and whatnot, but we can't change everyone's perspective and whatever biases they may have about young people. So we just asked and strongly encourage young people, always be conscious of the decisions you make. I think there are ways that we can do that as adults, even from an education perspective. Again, I believe so strongly that typically when you engage a young person in an activity that inspires them, give them some level of aspiration, it usually keeps them focused on a positive track. And I think that we just got to be proactively conscious about what are the mindsets of young people, knowing that we've all done some crazy things when we were young and just didn't get caught in some respects. But how do we create programs, activities, initiatives? And by the way, I got to acknowledge two of our funders, Workforce One and the Children's Service Council, because our organization have been beneficiaries of some of those activities that we help get doing in our community now.
I think that positive aspect is so important. You know, when we talk about understanding consequences, nobody believes the consequences are going to happen to them. I mean, we need to point out the consequences, and I hope people are really paying attention and understanding that young person, that stupid act that you do now may affect you forever. But somehow we just don't think the consequence, even when it's right in your face. Just had an experience, again, my 6-year-old, what can I say? You know, I said, if you do that, this is the consequence. And it was something really important to her. And you know what she did? She did the thing I just told her not to do, immediately following, just to see if the consequence would happen. And then when the consequence happened, she was like, no, don't do it, don't do the consequence.
Yeah.
I said, wow, that really didn't work. The consequence stuck, but this morning I was like, okay, here's how you're gonna be a leader today. You know, I want you to see how you can be a leader and what that positive opportunity is for you. And then this is the good thing that will happen.